Welcome to Elevate at Home. I'm Mike Barker.
And I'm Samantha Barker.
And we're your team behind Elevate, where we build dream outdoor spaces like custom hardscapes, pools, and more.
On this podcast, we'll take you behind the scenes of our industry, sharing insights, answering your questions, and giving you an inside look at our projects.
Plus, we'll be joined with industry experts, other business owners, and even our customers to share their experiences.
Whether you're planning a project, in the industry, or just love great outdoor spaces, you're in the right place.
Let's dive in. This is Elevate at Home. Welcome back to another episode of Elevate at Home. Thank you for tuning in. This week's episode, we're going to be talking about what you should know before you do a project, before you dig a pool. So we're going to talk about the top 10 questions that you should be asking a contractor.
Top 15.
Top 15. All right.
15 questions.
15 questions you should be asking your contractor.
Because the reality is there's a lot of questions you should be asking before doing a project like this.
There is. So there's a lot to cover. So let's dive in. We've heard stories just about people hire a contractor for a project and it gets drug out for months over what they thought. Budgets just get exploded out of what they thought they were going to spend. They just balloon right up. And even projects that just never got finished. We unfortunately had to experience one of those. We just took a project over this spring that another contractor didn't finish. So we're going to talk about the top 15 questions that you should be asking your contractor on if they're the right fit for them. So
yeah, I think this topic is just it's such a big topic, and this is one of the most frustrating things as a contractor is people not doing enough research or just saying, oh, well, they're the lowest bid, so I'm going to go with them, and not getting all of the full information and all of the details before deciding on who to work with. So I think this topic is so important.
Yeah. Let's jump into our first question. So the first one that we have is, are you licensed and insured? And that should be probably the first question you should ask. It's definitely one of the biggest ones. So where we're at in Michigan, we do have to be licensed to install pools. Like I have my builder's license. There's also a maintenance and alteration license that you can do for swimming pools. So that's one thing that you should have as a contractor. You should have that. Now, I just ran into this with a call today. Right. Another company was talking with this homeowner, and this company wanted the homeowner to pull the permits. And so like, I'm a big advocate of like totally against that. Like, we're the contractor. We should be the ones pulling the permits. We're the ones that should be, jumping through the hoops that are required to, install a project like this. And so that's why we go get the licensing. Right. That's why it's there. And, we've heard so many stories of another contractor, in the past that, was doing pools underneath someone else's license, an uncle's license or something. And it's like, no, you should not be doing that.
The person doing the installation should have a license, and also the business should have a license.
Business also needs a license, which is super easy to get. Mm-hmm. That's easier than me going to get an builder's license. Because once I have it, then my business can have it. So It's just a paperwork. It's a money grab.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And then the other one is insured. Are you insured? Are you insured to do what you are hiring someone to do? Or are they insured to do what you are hiring someone to do? And that's a big one because we're not in the world of insurance.
Along those lines, it's making sure that the company has all of the insurances that they might need. So like something that I didn't even know about until I had talked with our insurance company is like this pollution policy.
Yeah.
Where like when we're digging a pool, if there's water runoff or something from our client's property that goes and damages somebody else's property, like the neighbors or something, if you don't have that specific policy, there's no coverage.
Especially with pools, now we're in excavation, so we have to have the right insurance to be covered to do excavation. So, and then there's the whole, pool side of things. So making sure that your contractor is insured is extremely important because, things can happen. Number 2 is how long have you been in business and how many pools have you installed? Now, me personally, this is kind of a loaded question because we all have to start somewhere, right? I started doing pools. We started doing pools about 5 years ago, and we started with 0.
Yeah.
Right?
You got to start with one. You got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. But I was very fortunate enough to go get a lot of education from another company. I was able to shadow them for a week. I was able to go down to another company and shadow them. Those are things that I've told homeowners when we were first starting is, hey, I believe I went and got, really, really good education, not just from other companies, but the PHTA, I'm licensed, to do what we do.
Did specific fiberglass and vinyl liner pool training in Florida with Latham.
Yep.
We've done a lot above and beyond what's required.
Hydraulics. I've taken a lot of stuff on hydraulics and any event that any show that we go to that's in the industry. I mean, I'm taking at least, we're actually our whole company. We all take at least, 2 to 4 classes when we go to these events. So it's very important to stay continuing on that.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is, you could be in business for 20, 30 years and installed 500 pools, but that doesn't mean that you're doing everything correctly because, things change and we get more educated on different processes and systems and how to do things right. And if they're not keeping up with that current information, they might still be doing something that isn't really the best practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, things have changed in 30 years, right? So the company that's been doing it for 30 years maybe hasn't changed their ways with the times, like everything else has changed. And so we try to be very, very progressive, very forward thinking on, our installation practices, what materials we're using, how we're doing it, how we're setting things up. I mean, compared to, our first plumbing pad that we've set up to now, they've changed a little bit. They've gotten better. Not to say that they were bad back then, but they've just gotten more clean, more well laid out, definitely more intricate and complicated. And so,
and I think just being open to the idea of improvement.
Yep.
There might be a better way to do something that somebody else is doing better than us, and seeing how they do something might help us get better.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely learn on every single job what we do still, so
yeah.
Never stop learning. That is one thing that we definitely try not to. The next one is, can I see your portfolio of past work? Anyone who's been doing work should have some sort of portfolio. We really like to show off what we have on our website.
I was going to say, ours is our website.
Our social media, our website. We bring in a professional videographer and photographer to show off all of our work. We've got booklets printed. We've got books printed. We have a lot showing off of what we do, and that's very important because you want to make sure that this contractor actually does the work that you're hiring them to do.
Right.
Even going and seeing other jobs, like we've brought people to other job sites. We've brought people to even when a project's in construction, so they can kind of see what's going on. They can see a fiberglass shell raw, just in the ground, not fully finished. So we can kind of explain to them, here's the workings of this, right? And so we've done that a few times. So, even going on site is probably the best way, overseeing, some of the videos, but we're very active showing everything. I mean, we're kind of like an open book with what we show with our process, and obviously our finished projects look amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Love showing those off, but making sure that they have, something to show for it. We are firm believers in having a very, very well designed, well laid out website.
Mm-hmm.
We've spent a lot of time on our website. We take a lot of pride in it because that's the first thing that a homeowner is going to see. Is typically they're going to go on their computer and they're going to Google pool installers near me and start going through everything that shows up. So, if they have a website, from the 90s, from the .com era, then maybe that's how they run their business. So it's just something to look out for. So yeah. The next one, you have recent customer references I can contact.
Yeah, I think that one is a huge one too. That goes right along with that portfolio because, having those customers available for for your new potential clients is really big. And most companies would obviously, if you do a good job, your customers will speak and the jobs will speak for themselves. So I know that we get a lot of customer testimonials. We have those up on our website.
Just huge, because those are real customers, not paid actors. So just to clarify that.
No, they pay us.
That's true. They pay us to be on video, but like reviews are nice, like Google reviews are nice, but if you can talk to a customer who's done a project with the company, if you can see a video testimonial of, those homeowners and how their experience was. I mean, we don't script. We have like 4 questions that we asked our homeowners on video testimonials, and they come up with the rest completely on the spot. And so it's very raw. It's truly what they feel and how they're thinking. So,
well, in addition to that, we also have several clients who will let us bring people and potential customers to the job site or to their homes and go through the space with them and just tell them about their experience. They'll talk to them right in person.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
That is a good one.
Most other companies, if you have another contractor that you're looking at working with, they should have clients that would be willing to speak with you at least.
Yeah. I think one of the best we've actually had it a couple times where past customers will come to like the shows that we're set up at. We were set up at a show, and like, a couple homeowners, just kind of hung out in our space, and they were talking to, people who were coming into our booth about us. And it's like, gosh, it doesn't get any better than that. Like they're like doing real time testimonial for us. And so that was incredible. But
yeah, we have awesome customers.
So that's a big one, is just, can you reach out to someone's references, and do they have a list of references? And they should, because if they do good work, then their clients should say good things. So
yes.
The next one is, who handles the designs and permitting and construction and through the construction process. So this is kind of one where we like to pride ourselves on being kind of the turnkey, company that we take care of everything in house. So we're gonna design it. We're gonna do all the permitting. We're gonna do all the pre-construction. We're gonna do all the construction. We're gonna do all the GCing, and we're gonna close it out with you. So that's a big one.
Yeah. I unfortunately, that's not how everyone likes to operate. So that's really important to ask, because like you said today, you talked to a potential customer today, and they were saying like this company wanted them to handle all their own permitting, handle their GCing, finding their electrical,
gas, dirt removal,
which is crazy.
Sand brought in. I'm pretty sure they wanted to use 2 of their kids to install the pool too. Like it was
I wouldn't doubt it.
I mean,
you got to pay attention. You got to know what you're getting.
Yeah. So that one was pretty crazy, but so through the design process, we do all of our own designs, and we kind of take it through the sale. And that's really what we pride ourselves on, is our design work and laying out a backyard. A truly well-designed space is a space that you're going to enjoy for a long period of time and get good ROI, if you will, on. We have all the permitting that we handle on our end for the building permit and all the inspections and all of our contractors. So we do through the construction phase, we handle the electrician, the gas.
We handle all the logistics.
The concrete, the water, the backfill, everything.
The pool delivery. Like you said, the inspections, the everything. And
so, every once in a while we'll ask a homeowner will ask, hey, can we have my brother Larry do the concrete? And it's like,
okay.
Brother Larry could do the concrete, but is he gonna reach the deadline that we're trying to do? And so a lot of times they just end up hiring us anyway. But
yeah.
So it's just something to know. Like if you're going to work with a contractor who subs things out, that's fine. That's how it goes. But have them set that expectation before doing the project. Because if you're expecting an Elevate truck to roll up on the job site and a Joe's Concrete shows up or a Joe's Excavating shows up to do the work, I mean, it can just cause some alarm. They're like, well, who's really doing my project, right? Who do I contact now?
Mm-hmm.
And so just making sure that that's established before the project starts. So, what's included in your estimate and what's not? Yeah.
This one kills me. What is my least favorite thing that people say? Do you know?
That's not included?
No. What is my least favorite thing that people will say to us when they want an estimate from us and they've already got an estimate?
Is it apples to apples?
Oh. I cannot stand that question.
We love apples to apples.
They always want to say, I just want to compare apples to apples with this company, or, this doesn't make sense. And it's like,
what kind of apples?
First of all, there are so many different kinds of apples.
Yeah.
Are we talking Granny Smiths?
Because we're Honeycrisp.
We are Honeycrisp apples.
We are establishing that we are Honeycrisp. But there's Gala, there's Pink Ladies, there's Granny Smiths, there's
Golden Delicious. I mean, don't even get me started because
there's so many different apples.
All apples are not created equal. Okay.
So really, when you're hiring a company, you can't compare them apples to apples.
Absolutely
because
not.
It just doesn't work that way.
Right. And the big thing that comes back to is what is included in the contract or what is included in that proposal.
Yeah. Yep. And it just comes to asking questions and doing your research. So
big things to look for in your proposal. The main features, obviously the pool deck. I could go on about that, but I won't.
Mm-hmm.
The coping, heaters, any upgrades or features that might be part of the pool. What else?
Yeah, I mean, so in that, it's who's responsible for hauling out dirt. The homeowner shouldn't be responsible. That's what we're hiring a contractor for. So, the contractors do that. Well, if their contract states, dirt haul away to be determined,
right.
I mean, that's you might get sprung with a $5,000 bill at the end of the job. And it's like,
and we've seen that in other contracts, because we've seen some other pool contracts. People have showed them to us, and they don't include everything.
Right. So asking questions and just being aware of like, all right, is my dirt going to be hauled away? What kind of stone are you backfilling with? We personally like to use an angular stone. So just establishing that, what kind of pipe is being used. You don't need to get like so like with a magnifying glass, like so into the details, but just making sure like, does this include my electrical? Does this include my gas for my heater? Or am I within the allowance? A lot of companies have an allowance.
Right.
What we try to do is in your initial proposal, we try to include everything. So that's why we do the site visit, and that's why we take all of these measurements and we do everything that way. When we give you the proposal at the presentation, that includes all of the electrical, that includes the gas run that is actually needed to get to where, the heater needs to go.
Yeah, wherever the heater's going to be.
So it's not an allowance and then say, oh, you owe us another $1,500 because you're outside of the allowance. Well, that's right. Crazy. That'd piss me off to go, oh, now I owe you more money for what? I thought we already had a gas line. So just understanding what's included and what's not included is a big thing.
Right. And depending on who you're working with, I know a lot of times in these pool contracts, like we said, we're inclusive of literally any aspect of your project. If you're working with just a pool company, a lot of times, your landscaping, your yard repair, any grading, anything outside
Drainage,
of just
retaining walls,
that pool and maybe 4 foot of concrete is not going to be included in that. Yeah. So you really have to pay attention and know exactly what you're getting and what you're going to be responsible for at the end of the project.
Yeah. So just establishing that, with your contractor is a really good thing. So the next one, what is your projected timeline? All right, let's be real with the timeline. It's construction. A lot of times our average project is 4 to 8 weeks, right? But we work outside. There's project delays. There's things that happen. There's a reality of it. There's a difference between like having realistic delays and dragging a project out because the contractor just doesn't show up. They just want to go UTVing for the weekend and care more about partying and hanging out and doing whatever versus getting your project
it's their
done.
birthday.
Yeah. So having an established project timeline and a project deadline, right? So a deadline is the biggest thing that we love to set, because that's our hard date that we want to be done by, and we're very upfront. We do say, hey, there's rain days. We're getting we really don't stop for rain. There's certain things that we can't do. And if we just can't be on a project, we just can't be on a project. But, there's realistic delays like that. I mean, we had to push back an entire pool job because of a tornado.
Yeah.
Right. Snapped all the power lines.
Roads were closed. We literally couldn't get through the day we were supposed to.
Snapped all the power lines in front of the neighborhood entrance that there's one entrance, and it just snapped all the power lines. Like, okay.
That was a new one.
That was a new one.
Definitely outside of our control.
That was pretty hectic. Pool was literally supposed to be picked up that Monday, and we're just like, we need to push this back 2 weeks, because Mother Nature said not today. So, and we ended up having to push back 2 weeks. So those are project deadlines and delays that are just completely out of our hands. Some of the other ones are just like, material delays, or we're dealing with like the tariffs right now.
Yeah.
If they're even real. I don't know what's going on with that, but just making sure that it's very well understood what the timeline is going to be. So asking your contractor that. And
on top of that, asking how your contractor is communicating that to their employees or their subcontractors, how they're helping that stay on that time frame. And also, if there are any delays, how they're communicating those with you.
Yeah. Yep. So that's a big thing, is communication. And so that can really, it can really hinder, the experience. So the next one, how do you handle changes or unexpected issues during the project?
That kind of goes with what we just talked about.
It does. So, I mean, there's certain things that are just, completely out of our control. Like we were doing a pool dig and, hit a stump, right? Last year. And, so one of those things in our contract and in a contract, it can state that subterranean conditions are basically out of our control. So, if we hit something that we didn't know was there, not like a missed digs thing, not like your electrical, your gas, you hit that, then you're, should have called missed digs. Should have been digging a little more carefully. But, something like a stump, for instance, that was something that is pretty realistic. There's probably some verbiage in a contract that says, hey, these are things that are out of our control, and, there might need to be a change, to the scope because we need to get this out. So right. in our case, we just dug it out and we didn't even worry about it. It took us an hour and a half, and it wasn't worth the conversation to go have with the homeowner. We just said,
right.
let's just keep moving. So,
yeah.
But having that understanding of what happens, if this pops up. So, what warranties do you offer?
Yeah, so I think in that one, there's different warranties for different parts of a project, right? So our manufacturers have warranties usually on our shells for pools, or like our pool equipment, things like that. So we normally would communicate those to the client, and they would have that information. But also there's usually like a workmanship warranty on certain aspects of the project. So I think that's something you should just check with your contractor about.
Yeah. So I think this goes into our next question with warranties, is what kind of post-construction help or support do you offer? And so, one is the warranty, right, on certain things. There's certain things that might not be warranted. If you do a full build, with someone, they might not warranty grass,
right?
Or they might not warranty plants or living things or things out of their control. There's other things that are workmanship warranties where, if a backfilled trench has settled a little bit, that's something that, we can come in and we can remedy, because it kind of falls into the workmanship where, some proper compaction wasn't achieved at the time of the build. So,
mm-hmm.
But post-construction support, especially with pools, is, who's going to open my pool, who's going to close my pool, where can I get my maintenance supplies from, who do I call if I have questions. So those are some things that, need to be asked. And,
Yeah, like we do a pool school with all of our pool clients after we're done with the installation. And once we're handing over the pool, basically the pool responsibilities are coming to you. So we go through the pool school, and that gives them all of their information about chemical balancing, how to operate their systems. We make sure they have all the apps that they need on their phone if they're doing automation. And then if they have any questions or anything like that, we're obviously always available for them. You can email, reach out to us at any time for post-construction.
The next one is, what brand of equipment do you use and why? It can be important because if you're familiar, if you've had a project or you've had something in the past and you're familiar with a certain product, you want to know, what equipment they use. But we use all the same pool equipment. We just use one brand because that's what we've started with. That's what I was taught on. And that's what we have the best support through. So making sure that, does your contractor, do they have more than one brand to use? If so, why? Why do you like one versus the other, G&D versus Pentair for pool stuff, or Hayward versus, Pentair, whatever. So figuring out, what brand do you use, and then, looking into that, because that's going to be your equipment. You want to make sure that it's reliable. For the most part, I think all the brands are pretty solid.
We use Hayward.
Yeah, we just choose to use Hayward.
We like their systems, and they work really well for us, and they've been easy for our clients. But also knowing what brands your contractor works with can help you understand the warranties for those items.
Yep. So the next one is, do you provide 3D renderings or a virtual walkthrough? So in doing, a larger project, some projects are very simple. Some projects are just, what our kind of rough process is, we take some drone photos and we do a hand sketch and concepts, and that suffices for certain projects. But then we take it to the next step and do actual 3D renderings where we bring the whole project to life before it even starts. And what that does is it not only gives you excitement, and it kind of builds, what this project's going to be, but it actually sets the expectation of this is what this thing should look like when we're done.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing that, from what the rendering is to what it turns out to be.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. So it's really, really, really cool. So
yeah, that's one of my favorite kind of, before and afters to do is those 3D walkthrough photos and then the actual project completed.
Yeah. But that's one of those things is, does this contractor do some sort of rendering or some sort of design, because it will eliminate, what was this supposed to look like? What was that wasn't supposed to turn out how I thought it would. That was, was the misunderstanding. So, having that design aspect is huge. So the next one, can you explain how you handle drainage and grading?
It's a good one.
That is a good one, because water is one of our biggest enemies that we deal with.
Yeah.
Right. It's our biggest enemy and our biggest friend in the pool side.
We like it in the pool, not outside the pool.
Yeah, we like it in the pool, not around the pool. So how is the drainage being handled? So there's, starting just with the house, there's where's the downspouts going, where's the sump pump going, making sure that that's not, pushing more groundwater towards the pool, towards the entire project, potentially causing some issues. And then, where's all the surface water on the hardscape going to go?
Right, making sure you have the right slope.
Yep, making sure you have the right slope on, concrete in your hardscape. And, where's all your yard drainage going to go? We don't want to push the water to the neighbors. Do we want to have another drain where, we're pushing it down to a certain area and taking that out to the street? So there's lots of things with the drainage that it's a big question that should be asked. So will you walk me through the construction process?
Sure. No, that's a really good question to ask, because it is very in depth. There are a lot of steps and kind of how we go through the construction. And I think getting a good, clear understanding before you start that process is a really important thing to do.
Yeah. Yep. I would agree. I mean, just understanding how it's going to be built. I mean, you don't need to get down to every single little detail, but with the pools, I mean, what kind of pipe are you using? We like to use a rigid Schedule 40 pipe. Is someone using flexible pipe? Again, a backfill, what kind of backfill you're using? How thick of a concrete collar? There's some companies that don't do a concrete collar, which blows my mind, So, these are just things that,
Well, and understanding the process of what, it should look like can help you with understanding if it looks like there's potential delays or things like that. And also, I think on top of that question is, how are they communicating through the construction process, or where they're at in the construction process? So like, we have our daily logs that we can do through our CRM program. So with that way, we can update clients on where we're at with construction, what our next steps are, what kind of the big, things that are getting done, and photos of what happened that day. So understanding that construction process is really important.
Yeah. Communication.
Yep.
It's key.
It's always going to come back to that.
The last one, number 15, is, are there any recent or nearby builds that I can visit?
I love when clients go out to projects that we've done.
Yeah. The craziest one is like, I brought someone to a client's house in February, and the potential customer ended up signing a project with us, and the homeowners were just like,
it was covered in snow. They're like, how did you do that?
Like, how did you do
what
that?
did you even show them? And the customer just loved it. But like, I think the one where we literally took them to the site, and the pool was like hardly even, I don't even know if it was full yet. Maybe it was full and backfilled.
Just wasn't all the way in,
no,
all the way through the process. Yeah.
No hardscaper on the pool.
Yep.
Literally dirt all around it. But
it's seeing
it gives you such a better understanding of how the space should lay out, what makes the most sense, what the construction process looks like.
Yeah. They can see, how clean is your job site?
Right.
How are your guys on the job site?
Yeah, as your job site organizer, or am I going to come home to a mess in my yard every day?
Right.
Like, obviously there's going to be dirt and it's going to be messy, but it doesn't need to be a mess.
It doesn't. And are they going to pick up trash?
Right.
Are they going to we like to line the equipment up so that way you don't look out of your house and see equipment. And so your neighbors don't have to see, as much either. And so there's certain little things that, if your contractor can, just treat it as if it was, I don't want to say their house, because they might not treat it like it's their house.
Treat it like it's your grandma's house.
They can treat, yeah. So, but just trying to keep a neat and tidy job site, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do literally so many more questions. There's a million questions that you should ask, but I think that's a really good start on those.
Yeah. We can talk about some red flags.
Okay.
To kind of watch out for. So if you run into these, run. So they won't provide references or licensing info. That's a big one. If someone is just reluctant to share who they've worked with, or they don't want
license,
or they don't want to, provide licensing or say they have licensing, that's probably a big red flag. So the price is significantly lower than others.
Yes, I'm so glad it says that. People will be like, oh, well, this is way lower than your pricing, and it's like, well, maybe there's a reason why.
I know it sounds great, like, oh, we could save so much money, but like the reality is you're going to pay for it in the long run.
Absolutely.
You will pay for it.
There's definitely things that are not in that contract.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and even
if they are, yeah.
But even if the project gets done, is it done right?
Right.
We're dealing with one right now that,
are they actually going to finish the project?
A homeowner hired another contractor a couple years ago, and things aren't working right. So they're contracting us to, come back in and fix it. And it's a pain because they have to pay for it twice. Low price, not always the best thing. They pressure you to sign right away. You know, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the biggest decisions that a homeowner, anyone's going to make, right? I mean, it's definitely one of the biggest. You know, some people are spending half as much as what their house is worth on their backyard. And I mean, pressuring into doing this is definitely a red flag. You know, there needs to be some hand holding, right?
Yeah, I would say there are certain situations where you might need to move quicker on certain decisions than others. Like if you're doing a certain pool shell and it's available right now, but might not be available 2 weeks from now. You know what I mean?
Well, it's different when someone says, "Hey, I have a deadline of X," right?
Right.
Like, I have a deadline of August 15th. All right, cool. Well, now we need
to make decisions quickly.
So that's not, I guess, the pushy that I'm thinking of.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally understand where that's coming from because, no, I don't want to feel as a client that you're trying to just take my money.
Yeah. Being pushy. Want to watch that. They're vague or avoiding answering questions. I could see that one. Like less is more.
Right.
I don't think less is more. I mean, we try to be fully transparent. Like, I'll answer all of the questions.
Yeah.
So that you fully understand what you're getting into.
Another red flag that I would say that I don't, have on this list, your contractor is not asking you questions. If your contractor is not trying to understand what you're using the space for or why you're wanting to do this, that's a red flag to me. If they're just like, "Oh yeah, you want a pool? Okay, cool. Here you go. Here's your pool. This is what it is." Well, everyone's different.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't just a one size fits all type of situation. And if your contractor is acting like it is, that's a red flag to me.
Yeah. Yeah. We heard of one contractor that, he just said, "All right, you're getting a medium pool."
What is medium?
A medium blue pool.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And they sell pools. It's crazy. It's nuts.
This is such a big investment that it should be an emotional decision. Like you should have a reason for why you're wanting to do it, not just, "Oh, I just want a pool."
Yeah. I mean,
and if you do, I guess that's different, but
it is, but it needs to be something that, fits the lifestyle of, the family or the person or whatever. It needs to fit them.
Your contractor should want to understand.
Yeah. They should ask, or they should almost be interviewing you instead of you interviewing them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. It should be a two-way street.
It's a two-way street. Right. That's right. So, well, that's our 15 questions right there. Do you have anything to add on this?
I could add a lot, but I won't.
Okay. Well,
we'll save it for another day.
Maybe we'll have to do a part 2 of questions and whatnot. So,
okay.
But that's going to wrap it up for us. So we appreciate you tuning into this episode of the top 15 questions to ask your contractor. Next week, we're going to talk about transforming the space with hardscapes, which we flip-flopped just to get these questions in here. But I'm going to go ahead and cue us out if you're all set.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks you again, guys, for watching. Be sure that you like, subscribe, check us out on our socials, go to our website, just follow us along. We're really fun to watch. It's an amazing industry to be a part of. We want you to enjoy it. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.